My name is Cheryl Perreault, and I am a spoken word artist, and I write poetry and stories, and I am always honored and delighted when I can share them and they become musical with the gifted Steve Rapson on guitar. This is about coffee, my favorite food group, and it's a tribute to coffee as well as to my mother. When I was a kid growing up, I'd watch my mother drink coffee, cup after cup, to help keep her up and awake, because she always had to work that late night shift. Well, I shied away from that foul-smelling drink because Mother's post-coffee breath made me often shrink from her proximity. Or maybe it was just my adolescent sense of superiority. You know, like when you think nothing a parent can do is right, like even when they open their mouth to speak or breathe. So I swore I'd never be the type to drink that black, smelly, murky, dirty coffee. And then later, when I had grown and left for college, out on my own, I'd study hard, stay up night until dawn, making sure to stay away from what enslaved my all-nighter college mates. Drinking that black, dark, and strong, all foul and watery and smelling wrong, looking and tasting coffee. Later on, when I got married and had a few babies, they'd often keep me awake night after night, making me crazy. But crazy or not, I would hold on taut to my conviction, stick to my restriction, my abolition, my anti-volition, to never ever cave and drink a cup of that hot, hit the spot coffee. And sometimes I was so tired. In fact, one night I fell asleep standing up, changing my baby, making her stop crying and start laughing instead at me, while I was suddenly lying supine on the floor, apparently afflicted by some type of parental narcolepsy. And I wonder now if it would have been better then to simply have surrendered and given in, and just go grab myself even a thimble of that just harvested from Colombia, rich roasted smell, put you under the daily routine drinking spell of coffee. And then entered the strange change of middle age, and lo and behold, one day I followed my nose over to the cafe and decided to give in and get my first mocha latte like a rite of life passage. And ever since then I have been hooked each and every day on getting coffee at home or out at the local cafe, because I no longer refuse nor refrain. Instead, now I choose my coffee of the day. Maybe get the grande latte, the non-fat venti, the ristretto, macchiato, misto, doppio, cappuccino, frappuccino, espresso, americano, and the cafe au lait. And now that I am coffee enlightened, whether having a cup at home or taking a cup to go, reflecting, perhaps meditating as I bring the cup to my lips, I can finally agree as I savor each sip that maybe my mother wasn't so wrong after all, once again. Because in my later life and assumed greater wisdom, I finally realized that the world is now a much bigger place because of my awareness of a greater reality where there are higher things that keep us happy, thriving, and alive. Things like life, liberty, love, and truth. And the universal caffeine-driven pursuit of coffee. fact, I think I'm gonna go get a cup right after. The woman in this story was like looking into a mirror, but if my life was a different story, and it's called self-pinching. Coming from the theater, it's our big day in the city. It's winter and it's frigid, our breath vapor forms a trail. And we hurry from the warmth of our big car's purring engine. My children are well bundled, Lord forbid they might get colds. And a woman cuts our path off. She has a baby in a stroller and another tightly clutching at the frail spot on her hip. They've been lurking in the corners of a shelter of a building, hiding from the high winds. Lord forbid they might get cold. And the woman comes in panic. Her eyes are wild and feral. Her desperate hands are open, asking for some bus fare home. And her children's wide eyes bulging, showing panic, or is it hunger, or is it fear of their own mother, who maybe this time is too far gone? And the clothes she wears don't matter, because it's clear that she's been tripping on something more than aspirin that I had taken in the morn, as I felt fed up and was PMSing since the children had been whining and my husband complaining with the hardship of an outing, the great hardship of leaving home. But we stumbled from our home front to our big car in the driveway, our minds all full of troubles, our minds all full of woes, but we ride it out and over to the back streets of the city and decide to shrug it all off and get through another day. And she's shaking and she staggers and she leans upon her daughter, who by a mother's estimation is no more than 5 years old. And it's clear that she's been tripping on something more than coffee that I got myself at Starbucks with a whipped cream on the top. And I see she's coming down now. She's detoxing by default now, needing money for her ether to keep her going on. Yet I don't think I blame her, for no one wants to wake up in the middle of a nightmare when she is young and with children and has nowhere else to go. So I tell her if she hurries, she can catch the next bus home now, knowing deeply there's no reason for them to hasten on their way, knowing they'll still stand and stumble towards the people at the theater, but I still give her money to make my nightmare go away. And we walk back to our big car, our mouths all tight and silent, self-pinching in amazement to see if we are really all awake. And I look at my own children with their big coats warm and puffy. And I look at my own children with their gloves all lined in fur. But their eyes are wild and feral as they look upon this family who is living out this nightmare, which will never go away. This next piece is called If Only. It was inspired by words I've heard at different times in life, and in this case by a letter I heard written on the anniversary of 9/11. And the words are, if only I had known. When I woke up this morning and my feet fell to the floor, and I groaned, putting on my clothes, bumped into the bed, I softly swore. And I looked over at you, remembered the grudge I held onto from the night before. The words you said now blurry, something like how I didn't seem to worry about things the same way that you do. Something like how you thought that I was changing and growing apart somehow from you. but I would have heard all these words more carefully if only I had known how much I truly love you. If only I had known I was about to lose you. If only I had known it was the last time I would see you. And so I went away and had a pretty lousy day, growling and grieving at whoever was in my way, scowling at the busy traffic, driving blindly on the road, seeming like it took forever as I took the long way home, thinking how I never called you although my fingers stretched to the phone, how by then I realized I don't like to be alone, how badly I did in fact behave, how far I let my anger go, and how I would have done things differently if only I had known how much I truly love you. If only I had known I was about to lose you. If only I had known it was the last time I would see you. Now I sit often in this quiet corner with my knees pressed to my chest. All alone I sit and wonder and listen to the emptiness, hear the silence that goes sadly singing off the walls and bedroom floor, hear the phone that has stopped ringing. With your voice I hear no more. Hear the footsteps that no longer come to meet me at the door. Hear the goodbye I never got to say, as now I try to see your face each and every single day. But now the only thing I seem to do is look and see how I truly miss you, how I should have reconciled and kissed you, how I would have said all this to you if only I had known how much I truly love you. If only I had known I was about to lose you. If only I had known it was the last time I would see you. This last piece is called The Touch.
Yeah.
An hour after midnight, I hear a lone coyote howling her serenade of rhythm and blues, more of the blues, tipping her head to sing, to cry. Not on the open prairie, not in the desert, not in the mountains, but in the wooded lot across from my house, out in the suburbs. It sounds so lonely, desperate, haunting. It is a mother's cry. I hear her tears flow. It taps my soul. What is this lone coyote singing so low and tender? Is she singing to her young ones that there's no food left out there? That the woods are growing thin, that there's no place left to roam? Only source of comfort, howling throat-parched lullaby, telling hungry young ones that people of the suburbs are people to be feared, people just like me. Not for trapping, not for hunting, not for violence, but for ambivalence we carry in us, wondering what to do about hungry animals who trespass our gardens, growl at children, prey at pets, hearing their untamed howls that send out chills into the night. So we'd shut tight the windows and the doors with impatience to late-night howls of a mother wondering how to provide food and home. Foreign thought to those like me living in the suburbs who bring home groceries in big brown bags. Shut tight the doors, keep out the cold, tuck in our babies, all safe and sound. Shut tight the windows to displace matters like hungry wildlife who have no place to call their own. Out on the prairie, out in the desert, out in the mountains, now called the suburbs, pawing the ground, tipping their heads, howling the blues, waiting for salvation. Sometimes my father would come in my room at night, tousle my hair, call me his good little girl, all he could show through hands hardened by his life. But I knew he was thinking, I love you. And then he would swim hugs to me with eyes of crystal blueness. And I knew he was saying, I love you. But over time, the only words I ever heard him tell me were, we love each other, we just don't show it well. So I grew up with my heartstrings barely showing, being shy with my own words and arms to ever tell. Meeting my husband in my later years of growing, who was shy with his own ways of conveying love as well. Until we leaned into each other, learning together to say I love you with more than just our eyes. Hands and arms and souls joining our love vows, embracing and unlocking wedded ties. Later, trying not to follow lifelong patterns after the newness of love begins to wear, like a kitten who first gets too much attention, only to sit idle in a chair in later years. In raising children, the urge to touch expanded, unable to resist the feel of tiny lives, pulse of downy heads, smooth mold of cheeks, soft backs puffing tiny jet streams of sleep, touching to impart my sense of wonder at these small beings showing such largeness of our lives. And although they are now quickly growing, I still use my hands and arms to hug and guide and hold on tightly whenever I am permitted, since they've become self-conscious by Father Time. Still, I just tell them I can't resist these mother hugs and kisses, because I wish to show more than just I love you with just my eyes. And later in my life, I have grown closer to the magic of the touch of love and all it brings, with friends I've met and known along my life course, grabbing hold their hands or arms for an embrace, to feel the deep through skin and heart and being, to feel the primal pulse of their deep soul, to never let connections start to weaken, to let them know I'll never let them go. And I carry this with me now, knowing the magic of the touch I've found along the way as I look into the eyes of friends and family, and my father with his eyes now turning gray. Swimming hugs out to them all with eyes now showing, while offering out my words and arms as well, to share what in our life is often buried, like old forgotten treasure within us all, hoping to no longer keep my distance, aware of the short time we all have here, to say with eyes and arms and all my being, we love each other. I hope I show it well. This is called Car Stories, and it's in the voice of a man going out to visit his wife at the nursing home. In my car again, I will drive 15 miles, but then when I arrive, I will hardly see the way that you really look today, with 80-year-old wrinkles spread across your face because I'm focused on the twinkle that I still see in your eyes. And I think that you are smiling because it's Sunday once again, although you keep asking what day it is today, so I tell you one more time, and I bring you ice cream for dessert, which you eat ravenously like a shaking baby bird, taking in one of the best pleasures that you currently do treasure in your life, just like how I have come to treasure every Sunday. And I hope you might remember who I am as you hear each word that I am saying, as I begin to tell you once again a Sunday afternoon's worth of car stories. Car stories like the special day I first set my eyes upon you, when I was working underneath the hood of my car until I stood up and saw you. And then at that moment, our eyes had met and understood, as did our hearts, that we were destined to go driving in my car. And so I took you for a ride, my heart beating wildly inside, in a car I had fixed oh so quickly on that night. And I think I've never heard someone laugh so hard in my life. With your hair blowing in the California wind, you look so beautiful. Right then, your hair blowing all about me like Aphrodite. Car stories like how we were supposed to have a simple wedding day. My parents said they would pay, and still pretty broke we said okay, and the wedding circus then began, with your bridesmaid taffeta dresses that your sisters had selected, that when worn looked like the cross-dress of a porn star and a world wrestler, because your sister ripped and split hers, causing her to falter, bump your nephew at the altar, who dropped and lost your ring till 2 days later. And as we said our wedding vows with merry eyes and smirking mouths, we couldn't help but stare into each other's eyes and burst out belly laughing till we cried. And then we ran off and jumped inside of our getaway, runaway, just married honeymoon car. Car stories like how when we had 3 children and a tiny apartment for our home, not an inch of space to call our very own, little children running naked, messy, screaming with mischief and with glee, as they went running down the halls, finger painting on the walls. We'd look at each other in constant catatonic state. It would have been so easy in those days to get at each other, then to get under each other's skin, to try to expel the tension we both felt inside. But when we'd feel the blood pressure rise, we'd say, okay, let's get in the car, go for a drive, get some air, let off some steam, get some distance, buy some ice cream. Although we could hardly afford it with our new family of 2 plus 3, we'd shrug our shoulders and say, what the hell, enjoy the ride and break the spell of potential unhappiness that every couple must accept. Car stories like how we watched our kids go off and marry could have gotten caught up and carried away with the crying and separation, feeling sorry in our empty nest, depressed isolation. But we got past it and accepted this new life throughout the quiet days and nights. We'd be working side by side, sometimes grunting at each other, doing things we didn't like, and suddenly you'd look at me, smile, and go get the keys and suggest we both go for a ride, drive to the ocean, dive in the tide with our clothes on, or maybe off that night, dipping down, submerging, emerging while going body surfing at the empty nesting hang 10 age of 60 and 64. When the car stories are over, I realize I'd have lived my life no differently up to this very day. Still getting in my car every Sunday. When I come to visit, I see you are in a new world every other minute. And I know you wonder who I am as I come through the door smiling at you, because I've always loved you so. And so I bring you chicken soup while you ask me what the day is. And I bring the spoon up to your lips that I have always loved to kiss. And then you smile as you see me pull out the ice cream. And you come some more and settle down in your chair, looking at that moment so comfortable right there, as if there is no other time or place that you could ever be. And I settle in beside and tell you once more, we are going for a ride. And I take a breath from deep inside. And I tell you one more Sunday afternoon's worth of car stories.
This is my song, The Man from Galilee. There's about 1,000 songs entitled The Man from Galilee. You cannot copyright a song title, but this is mine. There once was a man from Galilee, they said he walked upon the sea. On the sea, oh, the man from Galilee. Yeah, the man from Galilee. Well, he made the wine and he made the bread. Some folks said he raised the dead. Wine and bread, oh, the man who raised the dead. Yeah, the man who raised the dead. Jerusalem he died, on the cross was crucified. Oh, he died, yeah, died, on that cross was crucified. On the cross was crucified.